Hello, denim heads, and welcome to your 21st hangout with the Sons of Selvedge. This is a podcast where a group of friends get together to talk about denim, boots, rugged wear, and related interests. We aim for this to be a fun and inclusive podcast where you feel like you're hanging out with longtime friends. But be warned, there's a bit of banter, cutting up in explicit language. In this episode, we'll be hanging out with the founders and a new friend from our community to talk about downsizing our collection. So maybe a quick round of intros, starting with Andy.
I'm Andy.
I'm David.
I'm Ilya.
Hey, I'm Kevin.
I'm Tom.
And I'm Rick.
That was
Ricky might need to turn up your volume a bit if you can.
Oh, is that too low?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's a deep, sexy sub-bass rumble.
Yeah.
How about
It's like
now?
you're hiding in a corner
there we go.
or something.
Is that better?
I am Rick in the corner.
Cool. Yeah. So first time having Ricky on the podcast. He's a friend of ours from all of our London hangouts. So welcome, dude. And maybe if you want, say just a word or two about yourself, and then we'll jump into the news.
Oh, cool. So how's it going, everyone? Not sure where to start. Born Portuguese citizen, born in Portugal. Grew up in the States for the first 7 years of my life. Then moved back with my parents, and I've been the past 7 years of my life here in London now.
Awesome, dude.
Legit.
Great to have you on the pod. And
Thanks for having
it's
me.
been a long time coming because you're always hanging out with us every time we meet up in London. So good to have you on. Cool. And I actually realized I lied a minute ago because I'm half awake. We're not actually going to jump right into the news. Instead, we'll first kick it off with current interests like we always do. I should know this, but as I mentioned, I'm just waking up. I haven't had enough coffee. So Andy, do you want to kick it off with the current interest?
Oh, fuck.
Okay.
It's been ages, hasn't it, since I've been on this due
Put on the
to
spot.
work and parenting. Yeah, I don't plan for this, Rick.
It's been an age since we recorded, to be honest.
Yeah. Right, so what's the first thing I'm going to talk about? So it was my birthday last week, and I went to Manchester, and I went to Damnation Fest, and saw Converge play Jane Doe in its entirety, At the Gates play Slaughter of the Soul in its entirety. I saw a little bit of Godflesh, but they're fucking boring because it's just two blokes and a blooming sampler. And a ton of other bands, and it was great. At the Gates and Converge were fucking life affirming. Some of the best things I've ever seen live. I've seen Converge a couple of times before, but the fact they played like a 21-year-old album and played it like it was freshly recorded, and they still had the same energy they did back when they were, they must have been about 25 when they released that album. Just blitzing around. It was great. I lost my voice within the first minute. Engineer boots are great in the pit because people leave you alone. It was amazing. And I didn't spend much money, which was good.
Did you not get loads of beer and piss spilled all over your engineer boots?
No. I had one guy try and start on me before the gig, but he was hammered, and then we had a hug, and then he wandered off, and then it was all good. No, I didn't. I think the worst thing that happened was afterwards I had to walk across a grassy verge and got wet pants.
Oh.
I mean, aren't engineer boots designed for like hot slag and, all kinds of crazy shit from factories? So surely beer and sweat will cause no harm.
Yeah, they just need a quick wipe. It's fine. But
I'm
yeah.
sure there's probably plenty of hot slags up there, wasn't there?
Oh, Ilya, lowering the tone.
I
That's just disappointing.
Sorry.
I thought slag meant molten metal.
It does. It also has other meanings in the UK, David.
Oh Lord.
Someone of someone who enjoys a good time.
Don't worry, David, I'm with you.
Of either genders. or all genders, should I say. Yeah, there was mostly a lot of slightly paunchy blokes in camo shorts and like really battered band t-shirts, and they all had ponytails.
That sounds like your crowd, apart from
Yeah.
the ponytails.
Yeah.
Heavy metal fan starter kit,
Camo short shorts.
beer belly, camo shorts, and an obscure band t-shirt.
Speaking of obscure bands, for us less musically inclined on rock music, what genre are these bands?
Oh, it was a wide range. It's all kind of within the metal and hardcore scene, but kind of quite a wide range. There was some black metal. The Wolves on the Throne Room were there playing their last album in full. I think they played it in full. That was amazing. They spent most of the time at the bar trying to get served. At the Gates, are kind of old school death metal. Converge are like super chaotic metallic hardcore. So it's, especially that on Jane Doe, it's just all over the place, but it's still catchy as hell.
On the topic of Manchester, I saw that BBC's put out a documentary about the Hacienda Club.
Oh,
I watched it last night. It's really cool. I think as someone into music and into the Manchester scene, you'll probably really enjoy it.
Full on Manchester.
The only downside is they have one of the Oasis brothers on it, but he's not a complete knob, so it's okay.
So not Liam then.
I thought both of them were knobs, but
Yeah, they are both. There's
anyways.
there's the other brother as well, who's not in the band, who's like the normal bloke. He's like a builder or something.
No, it's definitely one of the brothers.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's cool. They even have some like footage of like Joy Division and like even like Madonna playing at the club when like no one knew who she was and there was like 50 people in the audience. It's pretty interesting.
And everyone's doing an absolute fuck ton of E.
Yeah, it goes into that. What do people do at rock shows? Just like get really shit faced on beer?
Just get pissed, I think. I was gonna say drugs always in the metal scene, but I think at gigs people rather just get pissed.
Yeah, I mean, my usual kind of timetable for a gig is get there, buy a drink, jump into a mosh pit, realize I'm not as fit as I used to be exhausted for about the next half hour, get drunk enough until I realize I'm not exhausted, and then get back in the pit.
And then get Stitch.
Yeah.
After I sit down, it kicked in. Lactic acid build up.
So every time.
Yeah. Also on that note, if folks haven't seen it, the documentary they did on Netflix about Woodstock 1999.
Oh, I haven't watched that yet. I've watched there was an old documentary I think the BBC put out like not long after it happened, and that was bad enough. I've heard this one's it's pretty gnarly.
It's insane. It's like basically like a Mad Max film scene, like film setting where it's like, you know, shit's on fire, things are blowing up, you know, people are rioting. It was pretty crazy. I was shocked to realize how insane it was when that happened. But
it's like a kind of a microcosm of society kind of collapsing, and you see like the water, and if you like overcharge them, they just turns into chaos. People just start burning things. It's like, yeah, revolution. Love it.
it's all Korn's fault. Was it Jonathan Davis?
The song Break. And Limp Bizkit sung Break stuff.
Limp Bizkit.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, and they were like putting down that like camera tower, and it was just like, yeah, bring it down. Oh,
I think Korn's just launched dog apparel.
Of course they have. a Korn becoming like our generation's Kiss. Oh, I love like Jonathan condoms with Jonathan Davis's face on them.
It would have been funnier if Limp Bizkit had like designed rubber dog toys, because, you know, Limp Bizkit would be a more appropriate name.
Imagine they'll sell it all at once.
Yeah, it'll all be on the web store, mate.
Yeah.
They've also turned heavily Christian.
Have
Like
they?
they round up people after the gig. I went to a gig in
Put them in a cage.
a few years ago. I think
Send
you
them
see it.
off.
No. They say like, oh, you can, you know, come and meet whoever, they pick one of the band members and they go, yeah, you can come and meet them. And then they obviously, like, you meet them, you get photo and stuff like that. But then they also talk about, how Jesus has saved their life and stuff like that. So yeah, that was a bit weird.
Well, I'll say this:
When I was a kid, fine, but
when I was a kid, I was raised Catholic, and I used to have to go to church every Sunday. And I remember like not enjoying it at all, but I always really liked when they had like the holy bread of Jesus or whatever biscuits. And like that was like my highlight. And I was like, maybe I'll get 2 of them this time. And so if Korn like backstage has just like boxes of Jesus biscuits, like shit, man, I'd sign up.
Going to communion for a small little biscuit, and a shot of undiluted Ribena.
Small things.
That's name for a band, Small Biscuit of Jesus.
I'm gonna have to drop off, gents, for approximately 10 minutes.
Cool.
I have to take my son to football, but I will just mute.
Okay.
And
for those to the across the Atlantic, you mean soccer, don't you?
We mean
association football. It's still football, isn't it?
we mean
Right.
what?
Cool. Yeah. So I guess I'll jump in next with the current interest. So I've been doing the Stitchtown Patina Thunderdome again this year. I tried to do it last year, but the shoes I bought were the wrong size and they didn't break in, and so I dropped out after like 1 month and sold my shoes. But this year I'm doing it again, and I'm off to the races this time. So I picked a pair of Oak Street Bootmakers, their trench boot, which is the field boot. The field boot. It's like one of their military inspired boots. It's a rough out leather, so the full grain leather flipped inside out, so the rough side's on the outside. It's a bison leather, and it's black, and they're all kind of murdered out. So black sole, black hardware. Technically, the welt is brown. That's kind of dyed black, but it's close enough. But yeah, I'm actually really digging it. So the boots I got are unstructured toe. So over time, even after a month, the toe's already kind of starting to flatten out a bit and kind of get some nice kind of detail in it. And the kind of rough out leather is actually getting some patina on it where there's folds and stuff, like different shades of black and like some kind of different textures. So yeah, my hypothesis was that not many people were going to try and win a contest with black rough out boots. They'll be like shiny tan boots. So it's interesting to kind of see how they fare. One other person's doing the same boot out of the whole entire contest. So there's only 2 of us wearing that shoe. And it's cool. I've been spending more time on the Stitchtown Patina Thunderdome Discord. They've got a pretty cool community. It's like they're on there talking everything from jeans to shoes to boots to cars to animals to baking, whatever. And it's been pretty fun, kind of rambling about jeans stuff with people on there. I primarily hang out in the jeans channel. I'm not sure. I'm always a bit torn because like to enter their contest, you have to pay for their premium service, which is like I think $3 a month, and that gets you access to the Discord and it helps support their podcast. So like it's pretty cool. I'm like, hey, that's like $30 basically over 6 months to do the contest, give or take. Just like $3.50 or $4, something like that. So it's not too big of a deal to pay it, and it's fun to kind of hang out and meet some people, and kind of learn a bit more about what it's like in the shoes side of the obsession. Because I think though we love shoes, folks in the Stitchtown world are like a whole different level with shoe obsession. I mean, like it's crazy. Although no one there seems near as crazy obsessed as the folks on the Alden Facebook group. That's a whole nother level of crazy obsession, especially for the indie boot, but that's a different topic. But yeah, it's cool. Give them 6 months wear, 1 month in, 5 months to go. The one weird thing though is like with the Indigo Invitational, wearing a pair of jeans is like you wear your jeans every day, you'll destroy them. That's fine because it's jeans are eventually going to go that way anyways. But with the Stitchtown one, it's a bit weird because there's always been that kind of thing of like have an on day and an off day for a pair of shoes, right? So like you never wear the same. You need to own 2 pair of boots and never wear the same pair 2 days in a row is like the kind of the hypothesis. But with this, it's like you almost want to wear them every day. So I'm always kind of like, do I wear them again today or do I give them a day off? And it's a bit weird in that regard, trying to figure out like what's too much wear for a pair of boots. But it's cool. It's really cool. And there's all kinds of like crazy prizes and stuff. And I think the fact that it's only 6 months rather than a whole year is nice, because it's like jump in, wear some shoes and it's also throughout the winter, which is like when you wear a pair of boots anyways. So get in, wear your boots, and at the end of it, it's like can go back when it's summertime to wearing something more reasonable, like sneakers or something. So yeah, it's been fun.
What kind of brands do you see a lot of in Stitch Out down Patina?
Crazy amount of Vibergs.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting because in that community in general, obviously, like there's like Viberg is still kind of the holy grail for their combination of like fits and the aesthetic and the leather choices. Like they seem to have that sweet spot. There's a good amount of like Pacific Northwest rugged boot brands, so like some Whites, some Nicks, some Steve, some Bob, some Billy's,
Franks.
whatever, all those different Franks, whatever all those brands are called. Whites and their grandchildren and nieces and nephews. So there's a good amount of that. There's some like kind of some of the hand sewn scenes, so like Rancourt, Quadi, Yucatan. And then there's also, interestingly, a lot of the Indonesian shoemakers are really going in a big way. So like Sagara, oh gosh, I'm trying to remember the other ones, but the ones that we've all kind of heard about online.
Was that one of them?
Yeah, Santalum. Underhood, yeah, they're on there a bit.
What's it there,
Texture?
Benzene.
Benzene, yeah.
Benzene, yep. Is Texture a brand, or are we asking about like leathers?
Yeah, no, it's a brand.
No,
Right.
it's a brand as well.
I don't think I've seen any of that. A lot of Grant
I think
Stone,
it's like spelled
actually.
like TXT.
So like the Chinese boot scene is a bit on there. So like a lot of Grant Stone. There's also that one, what's it, like XBXS Boots Factory, who are obviously, who I think are making some really dope boots. Seeing some of those on there. So yeah, it's kind of cool. You've got the whole kind of global kind of enthusiast boot scene. Interestingly, Ben, the guy who started Stitch Down, him and Ticho Blanco are like the two dudes. But Ben's wearing a pair of Alden Indy, I think the 403, which is like the Harrison Ford Indy boots, that kind of like orangish brown. And it's really funny to see him wearing those for the contest at the same time that Roseanneville basically caused a bit of a shit show. Yeah. Yeah, it's fun. I'm enjoying it.
How do you feel it in long term? Do you think it's just a tool to drive sales for boots?
I would say no, only in that I think that community is buying boots left and right anyways. Yeah. So like some of the people I follow on Instagram, like the guy I bought my my Viberg Boondockers from, right? Like I bought him secondhand. It seems like every quarter he's got a new pair of Vibergs getting dropped off at his house, or like some of the people on there, they're just kind of constantly adding to their collection. And my hypothesis is that because these are like true hardcore boot enthusiasts, they're buying new, they're buying first quality, top price. I mean, maybe they're hitting up the Viberg sample sale in New York every year or something, but I get the feeling that these are people who are like pretty happy dropping $1,000 on a pair of boots every 3 to 6 months. And like I myself am a bit guilty of buying quite a bit of shoes, but I'm always buying them secondhand on Grailed or eBay usually, or like when Mr. Porter does their like 70% off deals. So but that said, like that works for brands like Yucatan that a lot of shops stock, but like Viberg's pretty much never go on sale.
I think the shoe world is a little bit different to the denim world. Like denim world, like someone spends ages looking at the right type of jean, and you buy, your right fit, and maybe you'll buy like another pair with a slightly different fabric. But shoe people, you want a formal shoe, and you've got like a formal shoe in suede, and then you've got like a mock-toed shoe, and then you've got a casual shoe. So you can just keep buying shoes over and over again and never have any that kind of crossover in terms of like what they're doing in your wardrobe. So it just goes infinitely.
I'd actually challenge that a bit, and I think anyone who gets obsessed in any given hobby goes down a rabbit hole, right? So like I think when you get into raw denim, you're probably like that. You're like, I need my one pair of indigo. And the next you're like, maybe I need a pair of black ones. And then you're like, I need some indigo black.
And then you start collecting, wefts. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Different cuts. I've got my slim straights. I got my regular straights.
If you would like to justify to your girlfriend, oh, I'm buying a new pair of jeans, and she goes, it's a harder argument for jeans than it is for shoes. But shoes, you can go like, oh well, this is going to go with a slightly more casual outfit. I haven't got anything that goes with chinos or anything like that. Oh, I haven't got like a suede pair. They'll be a little bit better for summer. Or I haven't. There's like many ways of arguing. For shoes. So I think denim is a little bit harder.
I think there's a lot of parallels. There's a lot of parallels between the two. I think it seems like there's guys on, especially on Insta, who are just centered around their boots, and it's just boot shots, and their collection of boots. Whereas I think at some point there was that with jeans, but I think it became a little bit more than just jeans as well. If you don't see just as many accounts about fades as you used to, I think that's changed quite a bit. I'm sure they're still probably out there, but they're not as prominent, I don't think, as they used to be. But to go back to my question again, do you think this kind of gives people a little bit of validation of buying new boots and wearing those boots in?
Yeah,
it's
sure.
Kind of a little bit of a purpose, I guess. I'm not saying this is in a kind of in a derogatory kind of way. Is it just gives people a platform to to connect and to communicate with each other over this kind of thing? It's just another way to do that.
I think yes, in the sense that like the different brands who are sponsors of Stitch Down like offer discounts and stuff, right? So like I think Standard and Strange and Grant Stone and maybe a couple others sponsor their show.
Yep.
So like on their premium Discord, you get some light deals and stuff like permanent 10% off Grant Stone or something like that. So
yep.
I think in that regard, their listeners are getting a benefit or it's easier for them to make a purchase. On the flip side, though, I don't think the Patina Thunderdome is like a financial It's like I don't think that they're like giving money to Stitch Down to like fund the contest, rather just like donating prizes and stuff.
Yeah.
So so I guess it's not necessarily financially driven, but certainly it's set up to kind of like support your passion. I guess in the same way that if you went to like a little toy soldier contest, you might be able to win some extra toy soldiers or get a good discount to add to your collection.
Andy.
Because all you need is that one box to start collecting, right?
Yeah.
And then that's all you need. Honest.
Yeah.
You don't need any more.
Ricardo, would you ever do the Stitch Down?
Would I ever what, Tom?
Enter into the Stitch Down, buy some boots.
Yeah. No. It's just no. I mean, to each their own, obviously, but it's just like I don't think I even have time to just get into those things. I do, however, like to curate my book collection, and I like to do my own thing. But as long as patina goes, I mean, I actually like seeing the patina on boots a lot, much more than I actually like seeing fades on jeans. So I actually have a very unpopular opinion when it comes to raw denim and the harsh honeycombs that you see on them. Oh yeah, I can see it. Yeah. Yeah, I'm just not necessarily like the biggest fan of it. I don't know, maybe because I grew up in the 80s and early 90s where you would just have like a very top to bottom natural fade or something.
Well, interestingly, the Indigo Invitational has, I think, 2 categories, right? Where there's like high contrast fades Or there's, I think, what they call vintage fades, right? Where you just kind of wear your jeans normally, you wash them normally. And I think for that contest, you can kind of enter both ways. And also for the Patina Thunderdome, they have like a actual using your boots as work boots category that's different from using your boots as office boots category.
I think for the Indigo Invitational, people complained
Oh, really?
in 2020. 2020 was, yeah. They were like, well, you know, there's so many people who are having these like more vintage fades. They were like, well, I'm never going to win. I don't stand a chance because like, you know, all these Southeast Asian blokes with all the sweat going through their jeans and all the high fades they get. That's why they did the split. That's why there's now two different categories, which kind of makes sense because it's very different.
Yeah, and I guess that opens it up to like the type of brands that do more vintage style jeans, like
as well.
Warehouse and stuff.
Yeah,
like that. Are still really fucking nice fades, but it's never going to be that kind of super high contrast because they're never starting off as starchy and not as thick on the fabric, you know.
I still love that picture I sent around to you guys of someone who had like sanded their fades in their jeans for the Indigo Invitational, and their jeans basically looked like a Tron costume for those who've seen the movie Tron.
That sounds disgusting.
So I guess Ilya, what you been up to?
Been reading or listening to a couple of audiobooks, and the one that stood out recently was the W. David Marks follow-up from Amatora, which is Status and Culture, and how our desires for social rank create taste, identity, art, fashion, and constant change. I think delving into that topic was quite interesting, and just kind of looked at trends, looked at the reasons of why we are, you know, pursuing certain things to buy or things to do, or you know, and I think that was quite a nice line of thinking, and it kind of actually feeds into the topic today of downsizing quite a bit. So yeah, I found that fascinating, and there's a lot of it's kind of almost in a essay form, I guess, with examples to back up his thinking. Some are obviously flawed, and you know, very directed into the goal that he's trying to, you know, to present. But nonetheless, it was a interesting listen, and yeah, got quite a lot from it. Kind of the thinking behind, you know, branding and buying and those kind of things. I really enjoyed that. So yeah, and the other one I've just started was Sandman Act 3 on Audible. Yeah, I really enjoyed the other two parts, and this one's been really good as well.
Yeah, I'm listening to Act 2. I'm kind of a bit behind.
Okay.
Sandman's a weird one because like I love the world and I love the characters and all that stuff, but when it gets really violent, I'm always kind of like, I feel a bit out of my comfort zone because I don't really like horror and that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So yeah, sometimes kind of like cringe a little bit, but I don't know. What did you think of the TV show? Did you watch it yet?
I got about 6-7 episodes in, and I didn't really like it because they kind of shifted a lot of the characters, the story. I think there was a lot of trying to fit in, and you know, change the original kind of thinking behind the characters. And I never like when they kind of, you know, decide that, you know, one character's now going to be a woman, or now it's going to be, you know, this or that. I quite like when books and, you know, original material are kind of treated in a you know, an authentic way. Obviously sometimes it works and it's fine, but I felt like there was a lot of changes, and a lot of the changes were to, you know, probably had some kind of, I don't know, guidelines that were put on them. It felt like that. So yeah, I didn't enjoy the show as much. I would recommend the comic book and the audio book much more than the show. I'll probably finish it at some point, but yeah, it kind of left me more frustrated with the show. Maybe that's because of my, you know, love of the original pieces.
Well, I know like the BBC I mean, I think this is like maybe Netflix in partnership with the BBC or Netflix alone. I forget which, but I know the BBC has like diversity targets for TV shows.
Yeah.
So like, genders, races, identities.
Yeah.
There's like certain distributions they have to have.
Yeah.
So I know that factors into a lot of British TV shows. But I will say this: the Corinthian, the person they picked to play that, like that was an awesome character, at least in my opinion. I thought he was really cool and like really evil. I quite liked him.
It was definitely a good pick. I mean, there's some great actors in there and some some great performances, and yeah, that's just my kind of, I guess, my biases with it. But yeah, I thought Sandman himself was quite a good choice as the lead. But yeah, I don't know if anyone else has seen it and not read the comic, and they might feel like it's actually really good. Or
yeah, I kind of just enjoyed the show as a show.
Yeah.
I haven't had that much experience of Neil Gaiman.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a good watch.
I watched it and then read the comic afterwards, and I thought the changes actually worked really well.
Yeah, there you go. It just kind of depends on where you start off and how you feel, and those kind of things.
I mean, one of the big issues is that they had to remove they made the decision to remove any of the DC elements from it. And obviously, like in the comic, there is him going to dealing with the fucking Martian Manhunter at one point, and David Thewlis's character in the book is a super villain.
John Constantine as well.
Yeah, and that might be my only tweet, but I totally get why they did it. It's because Hellblazer is a special place in my heart, but I think it worked. It worked well enough.
I don't want to take us on a sidetrack, but I've been watching The Peripheral and I love it, and I'm reading the book in parallel, but I'm like 20% of the way, or maybe 25% of the way through the book, and I swear there's maybe like 5 chapters so far that have actually taken place in the TV show. And it's like, I'm just wondering, like, man, is this TV show or in the book, are they ever actually going to line up or not? But I've
heard there's a lot of heavy tweaks, and they've simplified bits or added characters in for various reasons.
Cool. So, Kevin, what you been up to?
What have I been? Question. I've been traveling for the last 4.5 months now already. So we've quit our jobs in Australia and left. Basically, we're moving back towards Europe. We started off with a month in Indonesia, then went for a week to Singapore, just over a month in Malaysia, 1 month in Thailand, and then on the October the 11th, when Japan opened up and our Thai visa ran out, we made the decision to fly over to Japan. So I'm currently traveling Japan, which is absolutely awesome. It's everything and beyond of what our expectations were. So I feel very, very lucky and grateful that we're able to come here as well. Obviously, like, because they've struggled with not really struggled, but they're just very strict with all the COVID stuff over the last couple of years. So. And I mean, being in Japan, obviously, as a denim head is awesome. Like, literally anywhere you go, doesn't matter how big or small the city or town is, there's always a denim shop or a shop that sells something related to denim. So it's not been very good for my wallet, but we kind of like calculated that in a little bit. So.
If you had to give a percentage, how much of that is like Japanese denim culture versus like American vintage denim culture, right?
I think like a lot of it comes from that American vintage culture in general, right? All that reproduction stuff and especially in like the smaller towns, you kind of like the stuff that they do sell in those shops are more geared towards for example, and Seen a lot of warehouse, sugarcane. Yeah, so yeah, definitely. Like you see some of the brands like Pure Blue Japan or Japan Blue and stuff as well, but in the smaller towns, it's definitely more towards the vintage. And there's like heaps of vintage shops everywhere as well. It's not just denim shops, but also vintage stores, like literally everywhere. And then when you get to the like bigger cities like Tokyo, we're in Osaka at the moment. Obviously, Osaka being the holy grail of it all. Yeah, that's where you see all the other brands pop up a lot more as well.
That's cool.
It's really cool. Yeah.
Have you gone to Kojima Jeans, or sorry, is it called Kojima Jean Street in Okayama?
Yep. Yeah, not yet. No. We're in Osaka until Thursday. It's Sunday now, so more days in Osaka, and we go to Okayama, stay there for a couple of days, and then one of those days we'll head down to Kojima Jean Street, which is supposedly really good as well. So, yeah, it's been awesome, man. Like, and everyone who's into this stuff, I think if you get a chance to come over here, like definitely recommend it. Absolutely.
Have you thought about like writing up like a blog, like not a blog necessarily, but like writing up kind of for each country you've been to, top recommendations, where you liked most, places to stay, that kind of thing?
Yes and no. Like initially we were like, initially we were like, oh, maybe we should just start a YouTube channel or something, see, well, mainly like to, show friends and family like what we're up to. But we just decided against it because it's a lot of work, it's like a full-time job. Enjoy the travels as well. So, yeah, I don't know. It's not on the cards doing anything like that, but you never know. If people do travel to a country that we've been, I'm obviously more than happy to give recommendations or anything. Yeah, we do have a little like Instagram account, sorry, where we just post like pictures and videos on. But again, that's just more for like friends and family to see what we're up to and make everyone jealous.
Yeah, on the YouTube notion, I was listening to like a wargaming podcast, and one of the dudes in there was saying that him and his wife have separately made up their own podcast called like bedtime stories or some shit, where they're basically, they just sit around and talk to each other in bed and record this and put this on a podcast. And like, I thought it was a joke when I'm like listening to the war game one. I'm like, oh wait, this is actually like a real thing, and people might actually listen to this. And I was just kind of surprised that yeah, I guess the gamut of podcast material that you can find these days.
Yeah. Oh, there's everything is out there, man. Anything you want.
And is Copenhagen still your destination after?
Yeah, that's kind of like the plan still. We'll go back to the Netherlands, obviously to see family, because we haven't seen them 4 years when we're back, so it's been a while. So we'll stay there for a couple of months, probably till like the end of summer next year, and then we'll move over to Copenhagen if possible. Obviously, it all depends on like work and stuff like that as well. But usually that's not too hard finding a job. Well, in our experience, at least.
It'd be super cool to do like some kind of like podcast meet in Denim Days, if they have one in summer. I'm not sure when exactly they take place, but like I'm guessing getting a train up to Amsterdam would be pretty easy for you, and we could all fly out there or something. That'd be cool.
Mm-hmm.
In the past, it's been October and April. I don't know if they'll do an April one or not this year, but yeah. But there's also Selvedge Run, which is at the beginning of the year, and there's other things that you could think about doing.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, I forgot about Selvedge Run. Huh? It's still primarily like a big trade show, right?
Yeah.
Wow,
yeah.
Cool. Huh.
Do you need an invite to be able to go to those? I know Denim Days in Amsterdam, you just buy tickets, I think, but
I think with like Because I went one year and I was like worried that they might not let me in or something like that, and it was fine. Nobody really asked
It's
anything.
fine.
And yeah, because I went with Yegor and Ilya of Twerd and Red Hills, and I was like, oh, if anybody asks, I'm like your marketing manager or something like that. Let me in. But yeah,
I'm
nobody
your little
asked.
bitch.
Yeah, I'm their little bitch, basically. Yeah, but nobody asked. Nobody asked, and it was
Yeah,
fine
cool.
to get in. I don't know whether that's changed or not, But yeah, there's different points where we could think about meeting up. Any plans to come
Absolutely.
to London again, Kevin?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, like visiting. I don't think we'll move there
No,
anytime soon, but
no.
yeah, definitely visiting. Absolutely. Hopefully April, May meetup. I'll be there in the flesh.
There we go.
So that'd be really exciting. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I remember grabbing a pint when you popped back by. I think you guys had already been in Australia, maybe a year at that point or something like that. And then you popped back by and we met up. Was it Bethnal Green area? Either that or maybe it's your going away party. I forgot which of the two, but that was good times.
No, that was in 2019 indeed when we came back for a few days. Yeah, or for a few weeks, but a few days in London. Yeah. That was a really good night. That was a lot of fun.
Very sloppy.
Yeah, I mean the head hurt very, very much the next day. I remember that. I just sat at Brick Lane eating a bagel for like 4 hours and just did nothing. But hey, sometimes you just got to do it.
Cool. And
So,
Ricky,
yeah,
you got any? Oh, sorry, Kevin. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think one more thing, like being in Japan, like I don't know if people know who are watching or listening, but I've got quite a few tattoos as well. So obviously being in Japan, Japanese tattoo style is quite famous. So I had a tattoo done the other day as well. So
nice.
Yeah, good.
Oh,
Show you. I don't know if you can
Oh,
see
nice,
that.
dude.
very
For the
nice.
viewers.
Is that done
It's
with like the
a
old
tango.
school stick, or is it the modern way of doing
Yep.
it?
No, so he did the outline with a machine, and then all of the shading with tebori, they call it, which is indeed like a bamboo stick that he just hits into your arm, which is pretty cool. Because when I contacted him, I wasn't sure if he would do that on smaller tattoos, but he said straight away, like, "Yeah, man, I can absolutely do that for you." So it's really cool. Like, it was at his house as well. So he has a shop in Osaka, but he does 2 or 3 days, I think, a week. He lives in Kyoto, so 2 or 3 days he does tattooing in his house. It's really cool, and it's like traditional, like Japanese tatami room. It's like the mats on the floor. So yeah, really cool vibe. So yeah, got one done. That was on Thursday, and I'm getting another one done tomorrow.
Nice.
Tomorrow evening. So getting a few tats in as well whilst we're here.
Is it more or less painful doing the stick thing?
certain moments I was like, oh, this is way less painful. But then certain parts were more painful. So it's a bit of a balance. Some certain parts are hurting more, others are fine. I don't know what it is. There's different kind of shading. So certain parts are really black. So that must have been like the painful parts. It's just that it goes a little bit slower, right? It's still like a needle that goes in and out of your arm. So it's kind of like the same concept. It's just a little bit slower. Oh yeah.
One frontier I'll never cross.
It's not for everyone, for sure.
I'd run away screaming the second they turn the needle on.
That's a great experience, Kevin. Something I didn't get a chance to do, but I'd love to at some point.
Yeah, I highly recommend. It's just also because there's no sound. Normally you sit there and it's like this is just like no sound. We had some jazz playing, which was awesome. So it's like really relaxing, and yeah, it was a really good experience. Absolutely.
Man, crazy. I'm just thinking about it. I'm like,
It's also, once you get one, some people go like, oh, I'll get a small one. 4 years later, the whole body is covered. I'll be careful with that.
Just like raw denim jeans or boots.
Exactly.
It all starts with one.
Exactly. All right,
Cool.
that was me.
And Ricky, you've got any current interests you want to share?
I'm not sure if they're current. It's kind of more like and like all time interests, pretty much.
Cool.
Which I've been catching up on lately, because one of the things is stand-up comedy. Yeah, and I guess it's because of how the restrictions on flying in and out of the U.S. have eased up now, that we're getting a lot of the American comedians coming over. So just in the past 2 or 3 months, and I watched pretty much all the big names, like from Chappelle and Chris Rock to Doug Stanhope to Joe Rogan, and yeah, it was awesome, and Louis C.K. as well. So it would all great shows. Nothing to say about that. They were like amazing. Gems. Yeah, and even last night I watched Neil Brenner's special, which is called Blocks. It's on Netflix. I highly advise anyone to watch that because there's this very, very, very dark underlining across the whole special, which is pretty much him battling with his mental health. And it's just beautifully written and executed. It's just like, it's written by him, performed by him, obviously. So it's just really, really nice to see. Yeah, and kind of like another interest would say like podcasts. Helps me get to work. I have a pretty long commute every morning, so yeah, podcasts are always on the headphones. Lately, I've been very heavily into a podcast called The Real Dictators, which pretty much covers pretty much all the the big names in history, from Mao Zedong all the way from Hitler, Stalin, big guys. So and it's really fascinating to listen to. So it's very well documented, because you have the narrator who pretty much is going throughout the podcast, pretty much telling this story, but at the same time, whenever facts need to be chipped in, he calls historians to give their share of what happened, and it's really cool. So you have, say, in just one episode, you probably have like 3 or 4 different historians talk about what happened to Papa Doc, for example, which was not the nicest man in Haiti. But yeah, I definitely recommend that, because that was really nice. Yeah, and music as well. I know Andy, he spoke before, he went to see a couple of heavy hitters from back in the day. We spoke about it a little bit. I didn't get a chance to see those bands, but I did watch a few old timers, Sepultura, last week, which is, for anyone who doesn't know, is a heavy band from Brazil. Yeah, I was completely floored how, they're well into their 50s, and they make you feel like you're 15 again, which is crazy. Yeah, but it was a great experience down at the Electric in Brixton. Yeah, I also watched a couple of weeks ago Mark Giuliano's quartet. He's a renowned drummer, jazz drummer specifically. He's played with everyone from recorded David Bowie's last album. He has this quartet. He's been on tour with St. Vincent as well. So it's just amazing musician. And saw him at the Jazz Cafe in London, in Camden specifically, and that was That's specifically because I play the drums as well. So that's it, standing right behind
What's your
him.
tips and tricks?
Yeah. Oh man, it's the second time I see him live. The first time was at Ronnie Scott's, and I was, sitting kind of behind him, like up in one of the on the tables at Ronnie Scott's. But this time I was standing behind him, closer to the stage, like pretty much in an arm's length almost from him, which is it's just mind blowing. Seeing him do everything from a drummer's perspective, you're just like in awe the whole time. Really cool.
Were you ever tempted to like grab a pencil and like add in a little snare or something while he's playing?
Sometimes, I mean, I remember when I got there, it was funny because the first part. So for anyone who doesn't know the Jazz Cafe in London, you have like the venue itself. You have a dining space upstairs where there's a balcony where you can see the stage down, and then around the stage everyone's just standing, and it's like super free, super casual environment. And when I got there, the section that was pretty much just like full of people was behind the drum kit. And I just got there and I'm like, okay, so this is drummer's lane, and everyone was like, yep. Like everyone's like, it was just drummers around me, and I'm like, yep, everyone was there to see the
like patting their legs, like
yeah. It was just crazy because then as you're watching, you would just hear oohs and ahs the whole time. It's like, oh yeah, it's just really. Everyone was super hyped as well because his quartet is really, really special. It's full on, for people who are into jazz. He has a very, I would say, it's a very modern approach with traditional, with a traditional setting. So it's like piano, upright bass. And sax. So, and himself obviously on the drums. But he has a very like modern approach with the traditional instruments and very rhythm oriented, as you would expect from a drum. So yeah, it was great.
Yeah, jazz is one of these things where like the more I hear of it, the more I love it. Like when I pick it up, stuff that Giles Peterson will play in his show or stuff like that. But yeah, I just like, it's so hard to know where to begin and like how to like find your path. Cause I know like the theoretical sound I'd like to hear, but yeah, it's such a huge space of music that's like, how do I find jazz that sounds like X and like who's making that and who's good? And it's, yeah. But when I go on Spotify and just kind of like browse around for stuff, sometimes I find something really interesting and I'm like, yes, this is great. Also kind of like when it kind of crosses over a bit into hip hop.
What kind of stuff do you like, David?
I like really improvisational stuff, very
Okay.
kind of weird, kind of like not abstract, but like, kind of impressionistic sort of just improvisational stuff.
Okay. So more freeform kind of stuff, yeah.
Yeah. And I also like the kind of stuff that crosses over into the sort of hip hop kind of beat space a bit. And then I guess stuff that also kind of gets closer to like the minimalist composers. So like the Steve Reich, the Terry Riley, all that kind of sound, like the really pared down, stripped back stuff that's very robotic. That's kind of interesting. But yeah, jazz is this weird thing where there's like some kind of like secret sauce that like you're like, yes, this is great. But it's so hard to know how to find what that recipe is. But I don't know. I'm gonna have to pick your brain more, Ricky, for recommendations.
Sure. I would say, like, for anyone who wants to get into jazz or for some reason has never explored jazz to the fullest, I would say, like, trying to compare it with raw denim. Start easy and start from the beginning. My first pair of raw denim were Levi's, and start with the history. So maybe even if you're starting to get into jazz, maybe start with blues, with the old timers, like go from Lead Belly and work your way up. This is obviously if you want to get heavily into jazz. If not, just go on any random playlist on Spotify where they give you all the classics. Yeah, I think it's a really, really, really cool journey to do with any genre, to be honest. Like if you're getting into rock and metal for that reason, right? Like you just don't jump straight into Meshuggah. Maybe start with, I don't know, Sabbath and work your way up. So it's like, because I find it's more interesting, maybe because I really like history a lot, and I find it more interesting when there's a story behind it. So if you just give me what's the latest, on whatever genre, whatever is cool per se at the moment, I'll listen to it for sure. But then I want to know where it comes from, and I always like to know how things work and how things came to fruition. So that's for sure. I would say start from the beginning if you really want to invest time in it.
Did you catch that film? Someone's Bottom is like a jazz history movie on Netflix a couple years ago.
What was this on?
Oh man,
I was gonna say
something
Netflix,
butthole.
No, seriously, it was. Oh man, what was it called? It was like.
Gonna improvise all up in your butt.
Oh yeah, here we go. Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, 2020 film.
Oh, is that the one with Chadwick Boseman? Is that the last performance he did?
Yeah, and apparently it's based on actual like jazz history, I think from Chicago. Like based on a true story. Really cool film. Like that film was awesome. I guess there's a lot of historical facts and sort of true stories that went into the film script, and it was kind of filmed almost more like a theater production than like a proper movie. So it felt like you were watching like a really fancy play about jazz music history.
I'll Google Black Bombs later.
It is not NC-17.
So moving into Tom's current interests.
Black Bombs.
Yeah, cool. What have I been up to? I went to see Manchester Orchestra the other month. Really, really good band. Kind of rocky, and they'd have like some more mellower songs, some heavier songs. But went to Kentish Town, and I was like, oh, no standing tickets, so I'll get seating. Their seats are just like wooden benches with no backrests.
Oh, is this Kentish Town 4?
Kentish Town, yeah.
Yeah. It's a great venue, but if you're up upstairs, yeah, it
was so uncomfortable that like by about halfway I'm like, I'm really enjoying the music, but I just want to leave. Like it was that bad. Like I was so uncomfortable. Like you're leaning forward and you're like leaning back, and the seats are just wooden, so it was just an absolute fucking nightmare. So kind of tarnished my experience of seeing Manchester Orchestra, which was a shame. Because they're really good, like really big band, like really big sound. So yeah, that was a bit disappointing. Never going Kentish Town again. Yeah, I'll stick to like Brixton or wherever. Yeah, and then been working on United Overalls. So we have our second style out soon. Yeah, and getting that cinch on. And those suspender buttons are going for like that 1933 kind of style Levi's, straight cut. I think the patterns are being cut at the moment. Earlier.
Yes.
Nice.
Going into production any day, any day now.
Yeah. So hopefully get them before Christmas, which would be nice. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah. Been busy at work.
I've been an avid listener of you guys, and I know that Tom every once in a while promotes United Overalls freely on this, but I'll do it for you this time, buddy, because I've seen it on Instagram, and for anyone who's listening, for sure, pop on Instagram to Tom's page, United Overalls, and they're really cool. Congrats on that, because they're really They look really cool. I love that cinch on the back as well.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing how they are made and produced, and like I said, I'll try and capture some moments for you as well.
Yeah, Ellie will be there in the trenches watching it stitch by stitch. It was quite an interesting one on this one because kind of the first style I made was very much just like a 5 pocket. There's not much really you can do to reinvent the 5 pocket. Obviously, we've got our kind of like little stitching details, which I kind of made sure didn't directly copy something that I found in a book like Jeans of the Old West or something like that, but could look like it was something from Jeans of the Old West. And that was kind of hard then designing a cinch back style unique enough that yes, it looks new, but it also looks old, if that kind of makes sense. So I remember, do you know what? I feel like I jotted down the idea of it while recording one of these podcasts. I'm sure like I had like a pen and paper and I was just sitting there kind of like playing around. And I was like, that looks nice. I like that. And just had it like jotted down on a piece of paper, like on my desk for ages. And then like, slipped it into a notebook, and then, I was just drawing up the whole design. I was like, oh crap, I drew something somewhere. It's in my house. Let me go find it. And I had to like, rummage around my house to find this like one slip of paper with this like little tiny sketch of like a cinch back on. It's quite an interesting process designing those.
And denim wise, are you using the same Hewitt denims you've used before, or like different fabric, or?
Yeah, same Hewitt. We want to kind of keep championing the English main and English woven Selvedge denim. It's really, really nice. It fades incredibly. I've got like an old pair of mine sitting here. I don't know if you'll be able to see it.
Nice. Is that the 100% cotton, or is that the cotton wool?
Yeah, 100% cotton. I might take a picture of them later and show them, because there's some really cracking fades and rips on the knees and stuff. So the denim can compare to some of the Japanese stuff, which is nice.
Did you have to use sandpaper to get those honeycombs, or are those natural?
No, it's all natural. I mean, like I've done like who knows what I've done in them.
No, I'm kidding. Man.
I've basically just been walking up and down the stairs all the time in them.
Well, no, like I wore them like kind of non-stop for about a year and a half, year and 3/4. But like what really like kicked them off was going camping and just sleeping with them in a sleeping bag, because it's just you're just like in a hot, sweaty compartment with them. I was like, yeah, here goes yeah. And in that sleeping bag. But
So it's basically like riding the tube, but for 8 hours.
Yeah. And it was like October, November, so it was pretty chilly outside.
And you washed them after that, didn't you? Right, Tom?
What do you have against bacteria, Ilya?
He just stuck them in the freezer. Like all the cool kids.
Smells like cheese.
I'm telling you now, you've heard it here first. The next level of shit is to take your jeans and you go on Amazon and you buy.
Just wear them.
No, you buy 2 cat scratching posts and you put your jeans upside down on the cat scratching posts. And your cat's just.
Cat fades.
I'm working on some
cat
fades
fades
now. Yeah.
Cat paw fades.
They love it, man. They're up there every day. Roni in particular, one of my black cats. He's just like, oh.
Is that what you do? I was gonna say, is that what you're doing for your patina Thunderdome as well?
Yeah, actually, it's like you put the boots on the top upside down as well, and they'll just like hang from the toe box to get that toe curl. Sink their claws into that Vibram foam.
Board that 403s use. That must be good for scratching.
All right, cool. I guess based upon time, maybe let's quickly jump over to news and get right into our discussion topic. So on the news, I'll keep it kind of brief, just because we've talked about this a bit before on Instagram, but everybody knows Snake Oil Provisions. Ben Newhouse, the owner, is one of the coolest dudes in the industry. and ever since he started putting, videos back on YouTube back in the day, showing products and showing his shop, he's been kind of a favorite person in the denim community, and seeing his brand develop, and because it's not just a shop, it really is like a brand. It's an identity that he's got develop and change over time and grow has been really cool. And obviously from a customer service standpoint, he's an awesome dude to work with and order from. But recently he got into an accident on his motorcycle, not his fault, someone else's fault, and has had a life-changing injury as a result of it. On the positive side, he's back home, I think, as of the past couple of days with his partner Miranda and his cats, getting some cat fades on his jeans. But I think he's incurred quite a lot of financial cost as a result of his injury, and both moral support on social media and also financial support. He needs help to get back to normal as best he can do. So I just want to quickly mention that there is a page on GoFundMe to help cover his medical cost and help him get back to a more normal life. So if anyone's got any cash whatsoever lying around this holiday season, either if you go to Snake Oil Provisions website, he's got like a section of stuff that other brands have donated that I think is called Benefit Spin, where if you buy something from that category, like 100% of the money goes into his medical fund, or on the GoFundMe, which is if you Google Ben Newhouse Snake Oil Provisions Medical, folks are donating money there to try and help him get back to normalcy. So I just want to send him our best wishes from the podcast, and hope he has a okay recovery and that he gets the financial support he needs to get back to a good life. So best wishes, Ben. Hope you get better. And on that note, let's talk discussion. So discussion topic for this week is around, I guess you could say, downsizing your collection, letting stuff go, culling your collection, whatever you want to call it, but basically just about the fact that, we're collecting boots, we're collecting jeans, we're not wearing them anymore. Lifestyle changes, fashion style changes, our bellies and whatnot change, and for various reasons we've got to downsize. And so I thought it'd be fun to talk a bit about that. So maybe to kick it off, let's start with what folks have let go of this year. Anybody have any interesting freeing of the jeans or boots or otherwise?
And see Ricardo nodding.
Yeah.
eBay sold.
Yeah, I can start at that actually. This year is probably the year where I'm most. I'm sorry, I'm looking up because I'm literally looking at my rack of clothes here next to me. But for sure, this year has been the year where I've let go the most, mainly because I don't know if this is possible, but I'm trying to be a minimalist and at the same time as you're, it's so like interested in denim goods and boots and other goods in general. But it's hard, man. It's hard. I put a ton of things up on eBay that which I guess is the good thing when you invest in these clothes. They always have, the potential to be resold and passed on. We're talking about, well-made clothes, so sure and even like if you're picking it up from eBay or whatever other website or store for that matter, sure, it's well worth your while. But yeah, I still have a couple of things to let go of. I've been letting go of a lot of these because I wanted again to downsize and just have fewer better goods, more and more. I think, to be honest, one of the main culprits of this is Instagram. Funny enough, it's kind of like, I think I told this, I mentioned this to Ilya a while ago. It's like the more I see people's feeds, which are always cool to look at and to see what people are getting these days. But the more I see them, I feel like I have to tone it down. I have to like bring it back to basics, and a pair of jeans, a white t-shirt, and boots and a jacket suffices. At the end of the day, I think that is what's gonna eventually be there 10 years from now, 20 years from now. It's the minimal, the simple things, I would say. I do have my flannels. I do have a couple of denim shirts as well, and some jeans, but black and blue. And then, you have to have your odd color like egg crew, and then, but I mean, yeah, I try to tone it down now more and more. At the end of the day, we really don't need it. I would say, like, if you're not using any piece of clothes within 2 months, I would say, maybe even less, maybe just let go of it. There's no point in it's nice to look at. There's always, some cool pieces where you look at it and you go like, oh, okay. But, especially if you live in a pretty, all year round type climate, like London, it can get cold, but it's not crazy cold like in the States, or and the weather can be a bit humid as well in summer. It can be a bit bad, but that will probably be a Wednesday. You know what I mean? So it's not that bad. So yeah, I would say if you're not using whatever piece of clothing, probably 2 months, maybe max. Just maybe let go of it and move on from it. It's not that big of a deal. I've had issues with boots before where I was like, oh, I really like them, but I'm not using them. And if they just sit there, and you then think, what's the point? But once you send it away, or you sell them or something, it actually feels good because they're not there bugging you anymore. So yeah.
I guess if you wanted to go a bit more extreme and like sell off all your jackets and stuff, you can just use that indigo Farah blanket when you go around town, like a in place of a jacket, on the tube in your blanket, going to get your coffee in a blanket. There you go.
For people who are just listening, yeah, there's a wool, one of those 100% wool blankets from Indigo Farah that are made in Norway behind me, and I use it as a backdrop. Because the walls in my room are very hospital-like almost. It's like not pleasant to look at. So I use it as a backdrop. I think it's kind of like a piece of art, to be honest.
It's scary, just two little eyes staring back.
They are.
I love that blanket. It's so cool.
Yeah. So it's designed by Altdax. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Yeah, and he has really cool stuff. He's super into, I would say, like mystical creatures from around the world, like from, like old folks' tales and stuff like that. So I know he has a couple of Japanese related ones as well. This one specifically is, it's not Aztec. It's the
Mayan, Incan?
No. It's before the Aztecs. I forget now, but it's really that. It's kind of like a deity of sorts from that time. But yeah, going back to the goods part, it's just like I'm still convinced the fewer the better. As long if you're curating your boots and your denim, I think you kind of look after them more in a sense. The fewer you have, it's I think you grow more attached to it maybe.
Kevin, how's it been traveling with less things?
It's been interesting, especially here in Japan. Like in the Southeast Asian countries, like you just wear a t-shirt and shorts. And you don't really need much more. But then when we came to Japan, it was just, obviously it's October, it's November now, so it was definitely colder. And actually, like when I don't know if any of you ever have, but like if you move, obviously David you have, but like if you move abroad, especially like far away, tend to away in general. So that's what we did when we left Sydney. Old T-shirts and old shirts and stuff like that I wasn't really wearing anymore. All of my suits that I used to wear in London for work that didn't fit anymore. They're all gone, so there's all of that stuff. But we've actually donated heaps. Yeah, like I don't know how much, like probably like 10 big bags of clothes and other sorts of goods that we were just laying around the house. Like you start collecting things and then you open a cupboard and you go, oh, what's this? I haven't seen this in years. So that's always a good thing about moving abroad, because it's just like cleaning up all of your old stuff that you don't need anymore. But it's really interesting though, like living out of a backpack, because you realize that you don't actually need that much. Here in Japan is like a good pair of boots or something, because all I have with me is my runners, my Nike runners. So especially if it rains a little bit, they get a bit wet, but you get wet feet, but you just deal with it.
Just have to use new boots.
I thought about it a few times, but it's like, nah. It's also like it's not going to fit in my backpack anymore. So that's the one advantage that I have. It's like, well, not advantage, but like good thing. It's like I want to buy so much stuff, but I just know it doesn't fit in my bag, so I can't.
You have to start buying bags. Kevin.
Yeah, you can buy a bag.
No.
I'm just picturing you carrying these like loads of suitcases around, just like full of denim goods and stuff.
Buzz Rickson jacket in one bag. Like,
Yeah.
it's getting colder.
If you really want to go
I
heritage,
need another bag.
if you want to go heritage, you can get one of those old Red Flyer wagons from back in the day. I assume they had those outside America. Those little red wagons that kids had, and you just kind of line a couple of those suckers up.
Piles of jeans in the back.
No, there's definitely some stuff that will send back, because when we left Thailand, we took a lot of our summer stuff like swim shorts, and I got a couple of linen trousers with me as well for Southeast Asia. All that stuff we've left behind in Bangkok at the airport in luggage storage, just to free up some space in the bag to be able to buy at least something here in Japan. So we'll definitely have to send some stuff back before we head back to Thailand. But and then I'll see it again in, I don't know, half a year, 5 months. Hopefully it'll still fit. But we'll see.
Yeah, I remember when I moved to France, I had to like ship all my stuff from California. What's up? Sorry.
Did you get rid of a lot of stuff as well before you did, or?
Yeah, I had a huge just sold almost anything that I didn't need to have, and like shipped all my stuff away, and it was gone for 3-4 months while it crossed the Atlantic. And then it was really weird when it got to France, I got my stuff again. I was like, shit, man, do I actually like need any of this stuff? But I was kind of stuck with it. And then you're in a country where English isn't the primary language, so like selling stuff was really hard. Yeah, I think the thing I struggle with now is like whenever I get into something, I really get into it. And so then like what's like, oh yeah, I'll buy one of these to kind of like get into this hobby. And then next thing you know, you're like, oh, I'll buy 10 of these and then 100 of these, like in the case of like Warhammer soldiers or comics. And I've got this weird thing where like as life has progressed, some hobbies have like increased and other hobbies decreased. Right? I used to be really big into board gaming, but like I don't have a board game group here where I live now. And so it's like maybe I should just sell off all my board games. But it's like the downside of that is that's being replaced by Warhammer soldiers. So it's like I'm not really doing a good job of like simply downsizing. It's always like letting one thing go for another.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I do all the time. Hobbies. It's like, hey, yeah, let's get into this. And now that needs to take up a box above the I was about to say the wardrobe's behind. Can't see it.
Your factory floor?
Yeah. Yeah, just there. And yeah, just the hobbies just increase. I mean, like got into like house plants, and they're all over the house, and the Warhammer is a whole table next to me, next to the computer.
I think we just lost Elia.
Yeah.
My
But going.
No, he's back. Oh, I get it. Warhammer joke.
But yeah, I mean, I'll move back to the clothing. You know, I'm a sucker for buying something just because I like a particular detail, and I'm like, yeah, no, I'll definitely need that shirt later, because when I then come to make a version of that shirt, when
I'm
like,
gonna copy the design and do plagiarism.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother.
I haven't done
There's no such thing. There's no such thing.
That's a whole nother notion of letting it go. Like, could you ever see yourself dismantling a vintage garment to be able to pattern it better, or do you like have to like keep it whole and just get the pattern off of it as close as you can?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't. I'm not one of these. I can take it apart because like I also like wearing the stuff. So it would be like a shirt with a particular detail. I'm like, cool, yeah, no, I'd definitely wear that shirt. You know, I can see me wearing that. And then the excuse is, I'm going to copy the design eventually. So that's how it's wardrobe for longer than it probably should. And there's a lot of stuff that I buy on eBay that I'll put like a single bid in as a start bid and then win it. And I'm like, I didn't really need that shirt. But I've won it, yay. For a lot cheaper than I would have bought it for.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. Oh, dang it. I bought it for a cheap price. Stuff like that is usually the stuff that will come in, and then later I'll look at it and I'm like, yeah, okay, maybe that can go. But I find myself more and more when I actually do want to buy something full price, it would be like a basic that I want a nice version of. So at the moment, I kind of want like a grey crew sweat from like Warehouse or Buzz or someone like that. Just so I've got like, you know, kind of one standard nice quality piece that I can wear with a nice denim jacket or, you know, anything that kind of is that. And then obviously jeans I'm pretty much sorted for. I got tons of them.
What?
Have I not told you?
I've almost gotten to the point where like I can't bring myself to pay full price for anything anymore. That's like I'll happily wait 3 months, 6 months, even a year to get a deal on something.
Yeah, but like 90% of the time I'm like looking at sales, but then occasionally I'm like, and I want like a nice sweat and I want to invest, you know, a decent amount of money, you know, to get one that I'm definitely like, yes, I will keep that, you know, for 40, 50 years as long as it doesn't get holes, you know. You know, I've got denim jackets like that I know that I'll keep forever, and a couple of my shirts that I'm like, yes, I love this shirt. You know, I can see myself wearing it forever because it's just a bit of me. But yeah, then there's stuff that, you know, I look at and I'm like, yes, I wear it just because it's, you know, a filler during the week, you know, something, you know, when my nice shirts are all in the wash or need ironing. I mean, at one point, you know, I had about 8 or 9 pairs of R. Williams boots. So there was a time where I was like, oh, I should probably maybe sell some of these. And they do well on eBay, like at least 200 quid. You know, they're really popular in the UK. I got them all for free when I used to work for them. So yeah, maximum profit. Yeah, like I had like 3 brown ones, 2 black ones. And I was like, yeah, don't need that many.
Don't need that.
No, but now I've got like, I think 2, so like one in like the rum leather, which is really nice, and one in the thicker Vesta leather, as kind of like my 2 kick around R.M. Williams. And then I've got my Thorogoods, got my Red Wings, my Mock Toes, and my Iron Rangers. Like each one kind of fits a particular like style. So I feel like, you know, like boots, I'm pretty like well rounded down, if that kind of makes sense. So yeah, no, I go through phases. Like there'll usually be a point in the year where I do like a spring clean and I just like pull a load of stuff out and it's all going on eBay, not wearing it anymore. And the rest of the year I'll regather.
Regroup.
Yeah, I'll stock up for winter like a little hoarder.
Purge then splurge.
Yeah, and that's what I do.
What about
Yes.
you, Andy?
I've sold a fair few things, but most of it's because they don't fit anymore.
Because of your gains.
my six small gains, blah. From my now over days of lifting. Yeah. So a few bits and bobs, and it's that point where you realise, you've got duplicates of the same thing. So like there was a point when I was like, why have I got 2 pairs of boots that are very similar in design and are exactly the same colour? So that was like my Wolverine 1000 miles and my Red Wing Iron Rangers. Bar like the fact that one's got a toe cap, they're very similar. One's slightly sleeker. That's very minimal difference. So yeah, they went, and then I replaced them with a pair of whites. So I should have just sold one pair, but it's things like that. It's cycling out, say, 2 items and then maybe getting one in to replace. So I sold a couple of chambray shirts and ended up picking up the Papa Nui one, because kind of fills that gap, and it's a better fit. So I got rid of my Buzz shirt because it was a little bit tight, especially with that the button problem that they're kind of famous for having. That's the slipping button. So it's just been things like that. It's just been it's getting rid of the items that either don't fit or you have too many duplicates of, and then maybe replacing them with a single item that does the same job. I've got rid of like I think most of my band t-shirts. I think I've got a couple hanging around still. I bought one at Damnation, but that's purely because I wanted a new gym t-shirt, because all my gym t-shirts are falling apart. So there you go. It's an easy way of replacing. Instead of spending like 40 quid on some Under Armour technical wear or something, I'll spend 20 quid on a Converge t-shirt that'll last exactly the amount of time, same time.
Got like the memory. I've got loads of band t-shirts from different gigs. I can look through and I'll be like, oh yeah, no, I remember when I went to see Camden and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's been slowly then. There, unfortunately, a lot of band t-shirts, unless it's something, it's one of those bands that has a really kind of intense fandom, you can't really sell them on eBay. I find they don't really go for anything. I mean, if you had like some really obscure band, so say for example, I don't know, if I had like a combat wounded veteran t-shirt who are an old power violence band from the 90s, that would go. I'd be able to sell that for fucking silly money. My mate Toby, who I was at Damnation with, he pulled out some t-shirt of an old obscure black metal band, and he was like, well, I don't really wear this anymore, see what it's worth on Depop. And someone offered him like 400 quid for it, because it was one of those like super like elite, for like the ultimate elitist metal fan, that was like the Grail t-shirt, and he was like, it was in great nick, and it's like, I love the t-shirt
Notification,
but I also love 400 quid. So it's but yeah, I'll sell stuff on eBay, get rid of it. I know that I'm always going to make a loss. A 316 t-shirt will sell for about 15 quid on eBay, and it costs like 40 or whatever, but that's fine. It's going to someone else who is going to make use of it and going to enjoy it. So I'd rather either sell it or pass it on to a mate, rather than just sticking it in a donation bag. I mean, band t-shirts go that way because worst comes to worst, they'll get put into the rag trade, so they'll get used there. So yeah, that's been me really, just slowly just pushing stuff out.
I had a very funny experience on Grailed, because I've got like different designers I follow, and like 316 is one of them. And someone put up this hoodie, which was like very, very early days when they were still almost kind of a streetwear brand, but it's like this cool kind of like topographical map kind of camouflage, and it was like $75 US or something. And I messaged the dude, I was like, hey man, that's kind of a cool hoodie, I might be interested in buying that. And he comes back to me, he's like, I don't know if you noticed or not, but I listed that on Grailed like 5 years ago. With the current market valuation, I think I'd actually have to ask $500 US for it instead of 75. I was just like, go fuck yourself. I didn't respond to him, but I was just like, yeah, that doesn't even warrant a response. You could just go in a hole.
Yeah, fucked.
Well.
Ilya, what about you? What's your
I kind of I
He
think I'm
sells all
quite,
his stuff to me.
yeah. I'm just it. I kind of go through cycles. I know now that I know myself and my kind of personality, I like to try things. I like to experiment with things. So there's always things which are coming in, which I will wear for a certain period of time. I will kind of suck their juices out of them, and then I'll move them on in some ways. Whereas some pieces I know I will keep for a very long time, and I am definitely not planning on moving them on. So yeah, I have things which are 7, nearly 10 years old, which I still wear, like my Filson jacket, the collab with Nigel Caban, for example, that I know I'll never get rid of. And yeah, that'll kind of stay with me forever. But yeah, the last few years, I guess, I started to downsize a little bit more. Reading things like Ethan Newton did something I think it was last November 2021, talking about the things that the things you need, the core of things. That kind of inspired me to try and buy less, and the things that do buy is things I really, really want and really want to use. So this year I had a gentleman's agreement with my friend in Australia, Paul, partial to vintage, where we said we kind of apart from this is a very loose agreement. We had pre-orders which we had already booked and things like that, but we wouldn't be buying stuff, which has kind of really centered both of us. I think we've come out of it kind of thinking, okay, there's a lot of things that we've both have got rid of, and thought to ourselves, okay, this is the kind of thing that we want. This is the things that we want to keep wearing over a long period. And so yeah, I'm just kind of we'll be taking that into 2023 as well. Just making sure anything I add, it has to be things I can see, serving some kind of purpose, either for me to experiment with, or something I think I'm going to get a lot of ton of use out of. So that's kind of been my approach. And as David knows, we've both gone through a very downsizing in our shoe department due to our feet, and that's kind of helped as well to kind of think, okay, we don't need probably as many boots as we had before. So yeah, definitely more careful with what I'm bringing in, and getting the use out of what I have. So that's kind of been my approach. Yeah, and it always makes I think, I don't know about you guys, but it always makes me feel better when I let go of those kind of things. And it can be a little bit of a there's do I really want to get rid of it? It's this and that. It make me feel this. It's like maybe tied into some memories. But then when you do, there is a sense of relief. And I think when you look back at it, it's like that kind of that want or that connection. It's kind of like you're happy for it to have gone to somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I think as soon as it gets into your head of like, maybe I should get rid of this piece, you probably should get rid of it.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Right. Because otherwise you wouldn't. That wouldn't pop
Yeah.
into your head, right? So
exactly. Yeah. And it sometimes is a bit of a journey with those kind of pieces. Sometimes you kind of, let me wear it a couple of times, see how I feel. Is it still bringing me the same kind of, do I see myself? Do I feel good in it? Those kind of things. And sometimes it takes, a couple of months maybe, but eventually you kind of think, that's the right decision to do. So yeah, it is. You do get an emotional attachment. I mean, I get an emotional attachment to my items, especially the ones which I like. So yeah.
Do you think like a rental service would work in the denim, in our passion? Like
I definitely think it would. I think especially with certain items more so than others. I guess maybe like more jackets. If like maybe in the UK it doesn't get that cold So if you could rent a shearling jacket for a month, during January or something like that, a lot of people might think, oh, okay, yeah, that'd be great, pay whatever it is, and then you give it back. Certain things you might not want to, like, I don't know, a pair of jeans, because it's something that you would wear most of the time,
Yeah.
So I definitely think that there is a market, and I think it's growing. Will it spill over into more scene? I don't know, but perhaps over time I could see it happening. Yeah, I could see it like with outerwear, it being quite popular. But yeah, like with shoes, maybe, maybe with shoes, like you might not necessarily want to keep renting shoes out to different people.
Get some mushrooms
Yeah.
growing in the toe box.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, not just because of bacteria and smells and all those kind of things, but the way, like proper shoes, how they mold to your feet. You don't really want to be using somebody else's, shoes for that reason. So, but yeah, I think outerwear would probably be the best bet, like jackets, like, heavy overshirts and stuff like that. But even normal shirts, I think, would go well with that. Vintage jeans, like faded jeans, I think would, but every time you give them back, you're gonna have to either dry clean them or wash them or stuff like that. So there's like that kind of, there's that element of it as well, which it is sustainable, but at the same time, is that how much energy are you spending on those said items each time it goes back?
Absolutely. Shipping, dry cleaning, washing, whatever.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I definitely could see a market for it.
It would definitely have to be something fun, like quite a popular brand, like Real McCoy's or someone like that. Actually,
it's something like maybe Market could do, because they they have those facilities. They could potentially offer that.
Yeah, because no one's rent a Universal Works tech jacket when you rent a Real McCoy's or something like that. You want to be front in with a very popular high end brand.
It happens a lot in women's wear, right? Like there's a lot of women's wear sites where you can like rent stuff, rent the runway, whatever, buy secondhands. But I guess the key difference is their clothes are all designed to not patina and to not change. So it's like, like
I think
luxury.
that's one thing. That's one thing. They're not designed to do that. But also there's a thing of a mentality of like, oh, I have to be wearing something new for this event. You can't you can't just rock up in the same thing over and over again. Whereas I think for us, we kind of we're in our scene. We're a lot more open to wearing the same thing over and over again, and it's almost like
It's funny you mentioned that, Ilya. Absolutely, because I remember back in the States, I remember my parents being shocked of the fact that people would rent a suit or tuxedo or whatever, like fancy dress, to just go to a wedding or a very important event or something and just hand it back the next day. Sometimes they wouldn't even rent it; they would just buy it and then, don't want it, just send it back the next day.
Return it,
you just return it, and I guess it's mainly, capitalism's fault, because competition is so fierce where they get to a point where then if you're not taking it back and the next door neighbor is, then I'm going to the next door neighbor, and so that kind of like drives that a little bit. And I guess it's a bit cultural as well, because for sure you would find different ways of looking at it depending on where you're living, because I know back home in Portugal, Sundays used to be a big thing. Like you would wear your best clothes on Sundays because it's church day as well, so you would so for sure, it's funny to look at that way.
It's interesting how so much this kind of ties back into perception, right? It's like on the women's wear thing, there's like this perception that you got to be wearing something different each time you go out for a night out, so you got to have different dress. You can't wear it twice, right? But in reality, I think I remember reading somewhere that like on social media, if you post something on Instagram and you post the exact same thing, I think something like 60 days later, you get the exact same engagement, because 2 months time is roughly the amount of time it takes for someone to forget what they saw. And like if they see the same thing again, they'll react again. So like it's like, okay, great. You know, if you wear this dress 60 days later, great, no one's gonna even know. And the reason why perception came to mind is myself this year, I've pretty much sold off, or I'm in the process of selling off almost my entire wardrobe, give or take some things, because basically like I'm 6'2", and historically have been like 150, 160 pounds, like quite a skinny dude. And in my mind, I always had this perception that like my jeans need to be slim cut because that's the style, and my shirts need to be slim fit with like the shoulder seam landing exactly perfect right there on my shoulder bone, like exactly on the corner. And so historically, when I've bought rugged brands, whatever, I'd buy like a 31 waist slim tapered, and then I would buy like an RGT or like a medium, or like 316 medium, maybe large, depending if it was sanforized. And I've kind of realized now that my perception was wrong. And my partner, when I ask her her honest opinion, she's British. She won't tell me unless I ask. But when I ask her, she's like, "Yeah, all of your shirts have been way too short for you for like as long as I've known you. Your clothes are too small. You know, your sleeves don't go to your wrist." I'm exaggerating, pulling my shirt down, but you know, she's like, "Your shirts are too short. They don't drape well enough on you. They look like they kind of stop at your belt." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "Well, basically, like you're not a medium. You need to stop buying mediums." And also she's like,
how long have you been together?
Oh gosh, 12 years maybe.
Well,
And then
sounds
she's
like you
also
regretted
like,
asking.
and she's also like, yeah,
yeah.
historically worn, or like they're too skinny, and they, because you're tall, they make you look even skinnier. So my perception was kind of being changed. And why this is relevant is I've been doing like kettlebell workouts at home for 2-3 years now, and slowly over multiple years, I've kind of filled out in the chest a little bit. So like now my shoulders and stuff are basically actually a large, and a large garment fits me now, when it used to look, in my mind, my perception was that it was too baggy. But now like I actually do fit a large, which is kind of cool, which I probably should have been buying all along because I'm 6'2". And so basically all of my medium clothes, like some of them I can't button the neck anymore, or they're like super pulling across the chest, and I'm essentially selling an entire wardrobe of size medium tops and replacing it with a couple size large tops. And I'm selling like all of my size 31 jeans and replacing it with a couple size 32 jeans. And then on top of that, Ilya alluded to the fact that when I bought that Brannick device, I realized that my arch length was a US 11, not a US 10. So like almost all of my boots have either been sold or need to be sold. Like I still hang on to my black Viber Chromexel boots as like this kind of, I'm like Golem, you know, these are like my precious, but I know they don't technically fit me anymore. They're like a half a size or a size too small, but like I'm not quite yet to the point of letting go, because like my perception is that I need them. But the stuff that I have let go of, like I've sold a bunch of RGT tops, I've sold some Alden boots, I sold some really special stuff to me, and like I kind of like don't even remember that I had it anymore. It's like I've got some fade photos in my album, but it's like I don't open my wardrobe and be like, "Oh, where's my RGT Western that doesn't fit me anymore?" It's just kind of, you know, I got like 10 years of fades on it, and I let it go, and it's like, doesn't effing matter.
Yeah, I've like gone through a similar thing where I used to be, you know, super skinny. You know, you kind of buy stuff, you know, measured for the chest, and it's like, you know, 38, 40 or whatever. But you know, especially for Japanese stuff, you know, the sleeves are like down here, and you know, you can never tuck them into your trousers. You just don't quite have that length. And then I had to buy kind of new suit and shirts and stuff for like the 4 summer weddings I had. It's been a year. And I went to like buy a new shirt and like, you know, get like properly fitted for it. And tried like on my usual size, and I was like, oh god, it's just like, you know, so tight across the chest. You know, I've, you know, filled in a little bit with that kind of coming up tees weight, and you know, bought a size larger than I usually do. It was like, oh damn, this is comfy, and the sleeves actually come out of my suit at the right length, and I can tuck it in, and I can like lift my arms up without it being like
You can actually do this.
yeah, no, I boogie quite effectively on the dance floor of the wedding. And it's just mad how, like, you know, kind of from what you kind of originally were buying, the difference in the fit and the comfort, you know, from that, getting the sizing right. And you know, when you first put it on, you're like, oh damn, this is loose. Like, I feel like I'm wearing a tent. This is ridiculous. I'm gonna look so fucking stupid in my suit. And then, you know, once you kind of put the whole outfit on, you're like, oh no, that looks right.
The gross tragedy of it too is like there's a whole bunch of dudes on the like Facebook raw denim group or Reddit raw denim that are like just starting this journey, and they're making the exact same mistakes we made. Like I swear almost every fit check, I want to be like, dude, you need like 3 sizes bigger, man. You're buying like a size 30 waist and you're like a 32. You know, your ass is hanging out. You're about to rip through the front zip fly of your jeans. Like, don't do that, man. Or like people are like, how's this supply jacket? And it's like they're basically kind of like Maggie Simpson. You know, they can't, like a little cardboard star. And like I know they're gonna eventually get to some point where they're like, shit, man, these clothes are too little. They don't fit me. I feel bad for their wallets because I know my wallet is still
Been
crying
through that,
from.
yeah. which then feeds back into having a good in-store, you know, customer experience when you're going somewhere and you've got someone who can advise you how something should fit, you know, rather than just trying to make a sale. And you know,
Well, I won't mention names because I've ran through before.
I know you've got your story about it, David, but yeah, that's what I'm alluding to.
Yeah.
Basically, you know, having that customer experience, I think is really helpful when someone, if you can. Obviously, it's not possible all the time, and a lot of people are buying things online. But yeah, a lot of people do need that honesty on those fit checks. Because I think we've all been there. So
Interestingly, with shoes, there's the whole notion of like you size for heel to toe or you size for heel to arch, and you go with whatever one's the bigger of the two. And like if that's too long for your toes, that's fine. Or it's like, I mean, technically arch length probably wins in a battle, but you basically say, get the biggest of these metrics and buy for the big one. And I'm kind of finding that mentality works for tops as well, where it's like, I kind of know what shoulder, what length I need. I need about an 18.5 inch or a 19-inch shoulder. I know for a chest, like a 22-inch chest measurement is going to work. Some garments have little shoulders, big chest, or little chest, big shoulders. And it's like, now I just say, well, which one of these is the smallest of the two? And I buy so that it's big enough. And if the other one's too big, it doesn't freaking matter. So having that kind of notion of like, what size chest do you need? What size shoulder do you need? And for any given garment, like buy for the smaller of the two such that it's big enough and the other one doesn't matter.
But then you start looking at things like, you know, a work shirt, like a work shirt chambray should fit a little bit boxy. You can go up a little bit, whereas if you're buying a Western, you want to probably have a little bit more slimmer, depending on the style. And different shirting has different size, you know, the way you should size things. And obviously everyone has their own way of styling things, but if you look at how things should fit in the first place, I think that's a good guide to looking at the measurements and sizing correctly for those. But that's just, you know, very basic to, you know, shirt styles.
I would just advocate that also alongside with that, maybe it's worth investing in a good tailor. Knowing someone who actually can bring stuff in a little bit here and there, because I know sometimes, especially for us here in the West, when we're buying Japanese brands, the sizing can come a little bit off of, you know, what we were expecting in the first place. But then I would always maybe probably just go for a bigger size if you're you know, not sure about what size it should be. Just probably go with the bigger between both, because then you can always take it to a tailor and have them bring to the sleeves or shoulders, whatever. But yeah, the same thing goes for suits, even because most of the times we're just buying suits, unless it's for work. But when you're buying some nice things, either for wedding and stuff, maybe you don't need to invest so much, and just get something cheaper that you're only going to wear once a year or twice a year probably, and then just have a tailor have it set to measure.
Yeah, I think another thing too is also knowing what brands to buy. So like being really tall and skinny, I've basically just decided like I just can't shop Japanese because it's not made for tall skinny dudes. It's made for like more kind of not necessarily shorter people, but people whose ratio of like height to width is a more rounded average. Whereas like I need to be looking at like Indigo Farah for like tall Swedish people, or like Telesun because like Pete and Tony are really tall, and like RGT but sized up, because Carl's a tall skinny dude, and just kind of like I'm not gonna and just like give up on Japanese clothes really.
Sad, man.
Well, yes and no. I mean, it is in some ways, but like at the same time, you can find it gets you to like working within constraints gets you to find interesting stuff, right? You're like, oh, I never thought about this brand,
Absolutely.
but it might work for me for blah 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 reason.
Yeah. One other thing I would add is looking at smaller brands and like one-man brands who actually can make things to your measurements, or to give you a little bit leeway. So for example, the Bilby shirt which I'm wearing, I asked Tom to add on a bit of sleeve length for me, because that's always somewhere I lack in my clothing. So, and these shirts always kind of traditionally come up shorter anyway, which is kind of the way he designed it. But I just asked him, please add an inch to the sleeve, and for someone like that, it's not that difficult to do. So yeah, having a look at one-man brands I think is a good way, and it's a nice way to support people, and people who actually care about the clothing, how things are made. I think that's definitely an avenue.
Also learn to alter your own stuff. If your folks have an old sewing machine lying around, or you pick one up yourself, you can start kind of modify. I've modified a few garments to like add leg length or sleeve length when it's not chain stitched. One last thing too I realize is I realize that like I can't step outside of my comfort zone with clothing, so I'll eventually end up selling it. The reason why I bring this up is like I bought these Wabash trousers from Railcar a while back, and like I was like, oh yeah, I love Wabash shirt. Wabash jeans will be cool, but every time I wear them, I just don't feel right. I mean, the fit's good. They're a great cut, but I'm just kind of like, I don't know, I feel like a chef or something.
So David, does Wabash stand out more than Neon?
Well, that's the weird thing. Like,
how could it?
It's something about patterns. Like, I really feel weird in patterns.
What about Neon Wabash?
Neon Wabash with black, yeah.
It's something. I have this weird aversion to patterns. Like, I could wear camouflage because it makes me disappear, but
neon camouflage. Like a
cyber
goth.
They do.
But yeah, it's a really weird one. I was just wearing these yesterday, and I'm like, man, I feel so weird in these, and like I know inevitably I'm going to sell them because I just don't quite feel right in a striped trouser, even though it probably looks okay. So yeah, I think there's also something about not necessarily stepping out of your comfort zone. Like if I stick to black, indigo, olive, like I don't like white tees because I'm like, oh, I'll ruin them, so I don't buy white. But like black, indigo, olive, or occasionally I guess neon lime as well. That's my safety box. I gotta stay in it.
Maybe that's what one future topic we could talk about is comfort zones. Within menswear or clothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's time to bring out the assless chaps. No, I'm just kidding.
Dude, I don't care what anyone says, but the coolest thing about the community is no matter what, it seems like everyone has their own, quirk, their own thing going on style wise, which is funny. And I mean, the fact, David, that you just said, I don't buy white shirts, like white t-shirts, that's, for me, that's like completely mind-blowing, because I have probably like 4 up there. And it's just really, really cool that like you have your, like, the neon thing going on. I know Ilya is very heavily into the heritage side of things. So it's just like these contrasts, but there's somewhere where we all overlap, and that's really, it's cool to see, like all these quirks like coming together. It's really awesome.
Yeah, I love white t-shirts, and I love white, kind of Oxford cloth button downs. I just can't keep them clean. Like I end up ruining them with coffee, ruining them with frying grease, indigo that won't wash off. I even with like white detergent, I swear, like I can just never seem to keep my white stuff white. And so I've just kind of like drawn a line under it and said, you know what, I'm just never going to buy white again. Because I can't keep it looking good.
All my oldest t-shirts are actually black t-shirts because you just can't see the stains.
Gotta embrace that, like Henry Rollins, like black t-shirt and jeans look. That's where it's at.
It's my vibe. Maybe not the bald with punching people in the crowd, but
Cool. Well, any other thoughts on letting stuff go, calling the collection, selling things on, or maybe should we wrap up there?
I think it's a good ending.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Cool. Yeah. Well. Awesome. Awesome episode today, guys, and thanks, Ricky, for jumping on to join us. Hopefully, we can have you on more episodes going forward. And to that note, we're experimenting a bit with kind of recording more regularly, but maybe shorter episodes. So hopefully, we can do some more content. I'm aware we haven't put anything out in a while, so thanks, folks, for sticking with us, and hopefully, we'll be getting you more fun random banter in the coming weeks and months. And on that note, please rate and review us wherever you listen to your podcast. Also, please follow us on Instagram at Sons of Selvedge Podcast. Message us on Instagram with any questions you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, and reach out if you'd like to join our Discord. It's slow and steadily growing, and we're getting some new friends on the Discord and meeting some new folks. It's really cool. So thanks, everybody, and see you next episode.